Recent upgrade to our outdoors RV travel trailer. We have swapped out our original refrigerator, which is a Norcold N8X, which was a 8 cubic feet propane or AC electric fridge that was an absorption fridge. That means that it used old technology, which is to boil ammonia to make the coils in the back cold. And on propane, it literally uses used, because that's our old one, a chimney, like a flue, which was running a propane flame, and that hot flame would boil the ammonia in the tube to make it cold. The other way to do it would be to plug it in, and if you're on shore power or you're at home, and that would do the same. The difference between the two is one is that the absorption fridge, when on propane, is literally on fire, so you have to have a flame to make it cold, and that has its own set of difficulties. For one, when you're moving, lots of people do, and we have done many times in the past, have their propane fridge on while they're traveling so that they can keep their food cold, or on a weekend trip, by the time you get somewhere, hopefully have a cold fridge. And then alternatively, using it on AC is very inefficient. Our Norcold used about 330 watts of AC power, and fairly consistently. It didn't really turn itself off very frequently, so it was a constant 330 watt draw, which is a lot. So for safety reasons, when driving, we would turn off the propane and put it on AC power, and then use our inverter and our battery bank to run it. And then when we got there, we would turn it back to gas mode. The problem with those fridges also is that they have a lot of space taken up for their cooling fins and cooling units and coils. The advantage of this new fridge is that it runs on DC power, and so it uses a compressor to make it cold. And of course it has refrigerant in it, but the system of cooling coils is different. It doesn't need as much cooling unit in the back to do the work because of the compressor. So although this fridge was almost the exact same dimensions as our previous fridge, it's much bigger inside. So it's also considered an 8 cubic foot fridge freezer, and literally we pulled the other one out and just put the new one in, more or less, besides wiring, grounding, some other things. And the advantage is that it's much bigger inside. So it's a little hard to compare without seeing the other one without the same stuff, but it's quite vast. I don't know if you can tell, but if I put my hand in there, my hand is now touching the back. Of course, this is a ridiculous test. I should use a tape measure, but there's not much food in here right at the moment. We just finished a trip, and we're heading out in a couple days, so we're it's empty. But there's no cooling box in the back, and you can see there's a nice LED light. There's a fan in the back. You can control the temperature with these controls. So a lot more space in here. And same as for the freezer. The freezer normally, after using it for a week or two, would be just completely covered in frost and frozen stuff because it's not very efficient. And so it would be in a cycle consistently on and off, and a lot of moisture. Of course, it depends on your environment, but we're currently in Arizona, and it was really hard to keep things fresh, especially lettuce and fragile vegetables. They would just get kind of soggy because of the way the absorption fridge works. We constantly, in that particular model, was a lot less reliable than our old Dometic. We had a Dometic two-way fridge in our other trailer, and that one we really never had to worry that much about, although we had similar symptoms with things being way too cold. For example, in the fridge on the top shelf, a common problem with it would be the top shelf is the coldest spot in an absorption refrigerator, and so things like eggs or things that you need to keep an eye on that are somewhat fragile, you never want to put them on that top shelf because they would freeze. This unit has a nice even temperature. Obviously it's warmer on the door than it is inside, but same is true for the freezer portion. So far we have had really good experience with this. It's been trouble free. Really no problems to speak of so far. Literally for us, we were able to pull out the old unit and put the new one in. Now we did need to run some additional or new DC wiring, which had to go under the floor. Our power unit is underneath this pile of clothes and junk. In this box is where all our power is, so we had to go through the floor and under to run some heavier gauge DC wire in order to run this fridge. Recommended. It's pretty clear in the instructions, depending on your run of wire, the length of wire from your battery to the unit. They recommend what gauge of wire. We exceeded the wire gauging considerably just to be sure that we were never going to have any power draw problems. What we found is that it's very, very quiet. It keeps a constant temperature. We've not had any defrosting issues, and it's just been totally solid for us.